Watch how a calm strategic battle turns into a total blunderfest when the clock hits 20 seconds.
Welcome back, guys. Today we are looking at a chaotic clash from the 2025 World Blitz Championship between the creative madman Daniil Dubov and the 17-year-old Turkish prodigy Ediz Gurel. This game is a perfect lesson on how analysis paralysis can ruin your game, and why keeping your king safe is usually a good idea. Dubov starts us off with knight to f3, keeping things flexible. We are definitely in the opening phase here, and knowing Dubov, we shouldn't expect standard main lines. Gurel responds with pawn to d5, staking a claim in the center. He's a solid player, not easily rattled, and immediately Dubov plays pawn to b3. Classic Dubov, he's not interested in mainline theory. He wants to create a mess from the flanks using a Nimzo-Larsen-style setup. Black develops the knight to f6, sensible stuff, developing pieces toward the center. White puts the bishop on b2. This is the whole point of his setup, putting that bishop on the long diagonal to snipe at the center from a distance. Watch that bishop. It's going to be a key sniper throughout the game. Bishop to f5 from black. I like this a lot. He gets the bishop out before he pushes his e-pawn so it doesn't get stuck inside his own pawn chain like a bad bishop. White plays pawn to d3, controlling the center and preparing to push e4 later. This is a very hyper-modern approach. Black plays pawn to h6. Usually this is a bit slow, but here he wants to create a hiding spot for his bishop in case White tries to trap it with a pawn storm on the king side. White develops the knight to d2. Everything is pointing toward the e4 square. Dubov is winding up for a central break. Pawn to e6 from black, a solid pyramid structure. The youngster is playing very mature chess so far, solidifying his center before the chaos starts. And bam, pawn to e4. Dubov strikes the center immediately, challenging that bishop. The transition from the quiet opening to the active maneuvering phase has begun. Black retreats the bishop to h7. The computer calls this an inaccuracy. At this point, I think it would have been better to take the pawn on e4 to simplify. Keeping the tension like this allows White to dictate the pace. Queen to e2. Dubov is connecting his pieces, maybe preparing to castle long, or just keeping his options open. Bishop to e7. Black is ready to castle. Standard development. White takes the pawn on d5. The center tension is released, which usually favors the side with faster development. Black recaptures with the pawn. Now look at the e-file. It's wide open. If those kings stay in the center too long, things are going to get spicy. Also notice that White's e4 pawn is gone, opening lines for his bishop on b2. Whoa, bishop takes on f6? Dubov gives up his strong bishop for a knight. This is a very specific decision to damage Black's pawn structure on the king side. He's saying, I don't care about the bishop pair, I want your king to be naked. Pawn takes back. Now look at Black's king side. It's shattered. The doubled f-pawns are ugly, and the king is going to be very drafty over there. Pawn to g3. Dubov wants to fianchetto his other bishop to stare down the long diagonal. He's switching to a double fianchetto setup. Queen to d7. Gurel sees his broken king side and decides, nope, I'm going to castle the other way. We are entering the middle game proper now, and plans are being drawn. White develops the bishop to g2. Both of White's bishops are eyeing the enemy camp from a distance. Knight to c6, active development, controlling the center. Dubov castles short. His king is safe tucked away behind the fianchettoed bishop. And Black castles long. This is what we call opposite side castling. It basically guarantees a bloodbath because both players can push their pawns forward to attack the enemy king without weakening their own safety. Pawn to a 3. Dubov starts the pawn storm immediately. He's preparing b4 to rip open the queen side. Bishop to d6. Gurel took 17 seconds here, which is a lot in blitz. He's trying to figure out how to generate counterplay before Dubov crashes through. Pawn to b4. The pawns are marching. Dubov is coming for that king on the queen side. Speed is everything in these positions. Rook to e8. Black grabs the open file and stares at White's queen. A sensible move, bringing the rook into the game. The queen retreats to d1. Not the most inspiring square, but it keeps her safe from any discoveries along the e-file. Bishop to f5. That bishop is becoming a monster, slicing across the board. Knight to b3. Dubov is eyeing the c5 square, which would be a beautiful outpost for the knight to anchor an attack. Bishop to h3. Gurel wants to trade off White's best defender. This is a textbook attacking concept. Remove the fianchettoed bishop to weaken the king. Pawn to c4. Dubov ignores the threat and strikes in the center. This is why we love his style. He's playing for the initiative, not just reacting. Bishop takes on g2. The defender is gone. White's king is feeling a bit breezy now. King takes back. Now White's king is a little exposed too. Both kings are living dangerously. Pawn takes c4. The position is ripping open. Loose pawns everywhere. Pawn takes back. White has a mobile pawn mass on the queen side now, which is very dangerous for Black's king. Queen to f5. Bringing the heavy artillery closer to the action, Gurel is trying to stir up trouble on the king side. Pawn to c5. He's kicking the bishop, but, this feels a bit rushed. At this point, I think it would have been better to hop the knight into d4 immediately. c5 gives the bishop a target. Bishop into e5. Centralized and annoying. That bishop is dominating the long diagonal now. Pawn to b5. Dubov doesn't care about material, he just wants to open lines to the king. However, this is risky. I think it might have been safer to play queen to b1 and look for a trade, but Dubov wants blood. Bishop takes the rook in the corner. Gurel grabs the material. He's up in exchange now, but he's under immense pressure. Pawn takes knight. Dubov ignores the material deficit to strip the shelter away from the black king. The pawn on c6 is a dagger. Bishop to c3. Gurel saves his bishop and blocks the file. But notice that bishop is technically a loose piece now. It's undefended. Pawn takes on b7 with check. Look at that wedge in Black's position. That pawn is a thorn in the king's side. The king hides on b8, using White's own pawn as a shield. Clever defense. Queen to c1, and oh my goodness, this is a blunder. White misses a huge chance. At this point, I think it would have been better to push the pawn to c6 immediately, totally burying the black king. Dubov let him off the hook. Queen to d3, and Gurel blunders right back. The tension is getting to both of them. He should have played rook to d8 to secure the position. Now it's chaotic again. Rook to d1. Dubov thought for 76 seconds here, over a minute in a blitz game, and he plays a move that the engine hates. He's probably seeing ghosts. He needed to be more precise to keep the advantage. Queen to c4. Black stabilizes. The immediate storm has passed, and Black is still up material. Knight to d2. Dubov is now down to 19 seconds. Panic mode is setting in. A better try would have been knight to a5, keeping the pressure up. Queen takes c5. Black grabs a pawn, but this is incredibly risky with the king so exposed. I would have preferred keeping the queen on a4 to defend. Opening lines now helps White. Knight to b3. White is trying to harass the queen. Dubov is playing on pure instinct now. Queen back to c4. Gurel is trying to keep things under control. Knight to d2, he's repeating moves. He wants to get closer to the increment time to think. Queen to c5, they are shuffling. Is a draw coming? Knight to b3, we've seen this movie before. Queen to c4, if they do it one more time, it's a draw. Knight to d4, Dubov finally breaks the repetition. He spots a tactic with the knight jumping into the center. He's playing for the win with seconds on the clock. Rook to e4? Oh no, tragedy strikes. With 15 seconds on the clock, Gurel completely misses the threat. This loses on the spot. He absolutely had to play queen to c5 to keep the diagonal closed. Queen to c2, attacking the loose bishop on c3 and x-raying the rook on e4. Suddenly, Black's coordination collapses. That bishop on c3 is undefended and it's costing him the game. Rook to e8, trying to hold on, but it's too late. Rook to d3. The bishop on c3 is pinned and helpless. Dubov is relentless now. Rook takes knight. Desperation from the youngster. He has to give up material to stop the mate. Rook takes back. White is winning comfortably now. We are firmly in the cleanup phase of the game. Queen to c5. Black is running out of moves. Rook back to d3. Dubov is calm now, just consolidating the win. He knows he has it in the bag. Bishop to b4, trying to save the piece. Queen to a4. A double attack. He hits the bishop, but more importantly, he's eyeing that weak back rank. The narrative has shifted from a messy brawl to a tactical execution. Rook to e2, trying one last trick, hoping for a perpetual or a miracle. Rook to d8, check. The back rank weakness is fatal. That pawn on b7, which looked like a shield earlier, is now part of the mating net. King takes pawn. There is nowhere else to go. Queen takes bishop with check, and Gurel resigns. He's losing too much material, and his king is being hunted. A fantastic, chaotic fight from Dubov. What a game! It really shows that in Blitz, it's not about who calculates the deepest, but who keeps their cool when the clock ticks down. Dubov spent too much time thinking in the middle, but the youngster cracked under the pressure at the very end. Let me know in the comments if you would have found that knight d4 idea. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.